All right, let's lay the foundation for paid advertising, specifically AdWords pay-per-click. Now, this is probably one of the most complex things that you can integrate into your marketing plan. However, the benefits are quite large, and the kind of the payoff is pretty immediate. So it's a pretty nice thing to be able to have in your marketing plan in your toolbox. So let's talk about what the heck pay-per-click and AdWords really are. As you can see, this is a typical Google search for someone who's interested in a hair salon in Key West, Florida. That's where my office is right now, is Key West, Florida. So you type in Key West hair salon, and you'll see that several things come up. Now, Google is always changing, sort of the format of this, and what components they put into this. They're constantly changing and testing and things like this, but it's been pretty static for a while, where at least these components will show up. You'll see here where it says ad in front of it. These are paid ads. And then over here on the right, underneath the label of ads, those are also paid ads. Underneath this ad here, where it starts the map, are the Google Places listings, or the Google Local listings, or the Google Map listings. They've changed their names every 5 minutes. And we'll talk about those in other training. And then you have what we call just the organic listings down here underneath that. So the way you get here on top and to the side is through AdWords, which is what we're going to be talking about, is through paid advertising. Okay, and every time somebody clicks on this and goes to your website, you pay Google. The way that you get here in the map is through your Google local listing, claiming that and optimizing that. And again, that's a separate training. And then the way that you get here is organic search engine optimization. This is Google just making a decision that these are the best search results, and we'll talk about that in the future. And you do want to consider all three of these different areas. They all have value, and they all are they're all very, very different ways in which you can show up. The quickest way to show up is by paying for it, unsurprisingly, and in being in these ads. And that's what we're going to talk about now and build a foundation for. And that's pay-per-click, meaning that you pay each time a visitor clicks or a searcher clicks on your text ad that you create and visits your website. And that's using Google's AdWords service. This is where Google makes, if Google makes, I don't know what it is, $15 billion a year, 14.99999 billion of it is from people paying for these kinds of ads. All right. Pretty much everything else Google tries to do, they don't seem to make much money at. So when you use the AdWords service by Google, your ad might show, and that's pretty important in this whole situation. You're never guaranteed, but your ad might show if you have triggered a keyword phrase that you're going after. In this case, if you're a hair salon, you probably want to be targeting people that are searching for hair salon, hair salons, things like that. And your geographic area comes into play as well. You want to target people that are either in Key West, right? Because it doesn't do you much good. If someone's in Miami, they're probably not going to drive 4 hours to come to a hair salon. Now, there may be other businesses where that geographic area makes sense, and you'll define that, but you want to define a geographic area that you want to basically market to. And used to be that we had to kind of trick Google into being really smart about how to target people geographically, because you can imagine you might have visitors from out of town, right? Maybe somebody's coming on vacation to Key West, and they want to get their hair done or something. Well, they wouldn't live in Key West, maybe when they're searching for that. So the good news is, and we'll go into all this, but Google is really, really smart now about knowing that, hey, even if this person is living in Alaska, they are really interested in Key West, and they know that based on, maybe they typed in Key West hair salons, or maybe they just bought tickets to Key West. I mean, literally that kind of intelligence is built into Google search now. And so Google knows and does a really good job of understanding that you want to market to people that are in Key West or who might be interested in your service when they are visiting or something like that. So your ad might show if those things are satisfied, those triggers are met, but then you also have to offer to pay enough, okay? And it's actually is a bidding and auction process. Google doesn't say it will cost $2. Google says they give you a general idea, which is hardly ever accurate. And then you're expected to say, I am willing to pay up to this much. And then Google has a very sophisticated algorithm that looks at all the people who are willing to pay and decides where, if at all, you should show up and how much you're going to pay. So at that point, then users click on your ad and they go to your website's landing page, or we'll talk about that, and you pay Google a cost per click. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, I am not going to go into this because there is a lot of intelligence built behind the scenes here, but I wanted to give you an idea. There's a very complex real-time economy that goes on, and bidding process, real-time auctions that go on, and it's not just a matter of, well, if you bid $100 a click, you're going to get your ad shown, because Google's smart enough to understand that if you write a crummy ad, or if you have a service that no one is interested in, I don't care if you're bidding $1 billion. If no one ever clicks on it, me, Google, I'm not going to make any money. So they actually have a ranking and weighted ranking system that's based on not only what you're willing to pay, but how good your ad is. And they have a variety of ways of knowing that. They look at what your website's about and what you're saying in your ad. But the biggest thing that they look at over time is what's called historical click-through rate, meaning out of the number of people who saw your ad, how many people clicked on it. And so that only makes sense, right? If you're bidding $2, but 70% of the people that see your ad click on it, that's a whole lot better than the guy who's bidding $5 and only 1% of the people who see the ad is clicking on it, right? So all you have to understand is, at the end of the day, Google is going to show the ads that make it the most money. And they're really, really, really good at that. So if you bid as much as makes sense for your business, right? And write the best ads that you can, and we'll talk lots about that, you're doing 90% of the job and we don't have to worry about anything else. Okay? But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. So a lot of people say, well, what can I pay? What could I expect to pay? I mean, I don't understand. Well, it comes down to two different reasons for paying for traffic. The first would be a direct return on investment. Look, I want to pay $2 and I want to make enough money in sales that from that traffic to not only pay back that $2, but make an additional $2 in profit. That would be 100% return on investment, right? So that's kind of a direct calculation. And then there is the building your brand, okay, which is I just want to build general awareness. Example, when Geico puts together a Super Bowl commercial that costs them $5 million or whatever it does, obviously they're not going to get a direct return on investment from that. They're not going to say, well, I spent $5 million and that generated 70,000 phone calls, that generated 10 policies, that generated $6 million in revenue. It's just not going to do that, right? So the reason they do it is brand awareness. And it works. It's just that the problem with brand awareness is that it tends to be expensive and it tends to be sort of a little bit ambiguous, the return on investment. You can't directly track it. Again, Geico is all over the radio and TV and they just sort of say, we kind of have faith that spending all this money is building our brand awareness, which is making us more sales. So those would be the two broad reasons why you can do that, and as far as deciding what you can pay. But let's go through a return on investment example for an attorney. So let's say that we've identified our cost per click is going to be about $1.75. That's what Google's going to charge us at the end of the day. And let's say that out out of the people that visit our website, okay, only 1% of them are going to call us, okay, for our services. So, we send 100 people to the website. We spend, $175 to do that, right? Because if it's $1.75 per click, and one person out of those 100 is actually going to call us. And then out of the people that actually call us, maybe 10% of those become customers. And that sort of seems reasonable, right? Because obviously if they've gone to the trouble of seeing the website, deciding to call, making the call, probably a larger percentage of those will become customers. And these are not crazy numbers. These are, obviously it's different for every single company, for every single vertical, and all that kind of good stuff. But, these are order of magnitude kind of accurate numbers. And then value of a customer. Maybe for a law firm, the value of a customer, and you can think of that as a profit per customer, is $1,500. And obviously, if you're a hair salon, that number is going to be a lot lower. Okay, so let's do the math. Let's say with a cost per click of $1.75, let's say we get 1,000 visitors over a couple months. We spent $1,750 for that traffic. Let's say 1% of those called us. That's 10 people out of those 1,000 people called us. Let's say that 10% of those actually became customers. That's one customer. And let's say we made $1,500 in profit. So if we made $1,500 in profit and spent $1,750, our return on investment is a negative. So it's not so good, right? And that's unfortunately, like, the good news about pay-per-click is you can drive traffic to your website. And you can do it quickly once you understand how to do it. And it's sort of instant gratification. The bad news is that it's actually pretty rare that it's profitable on a return on investment basis, on a direct return on investment basis. It's pretty rare. But what about branding? Well, definitely. I mean, you could get, referrals. You could just build your general brand awareness. When you're new, you kind of have to start somewhere. You kind of have to start that trickle somewhere, right? Maybe you get conversions later on. Maybe you get a lot of Facebook likes. If you listen to our Facebook training, we talked about how valuable that can be. And just building, again, doing it the Geico way. Spending some money on the faith that it makes sense to build your brand awareness. And there's definitely some value in that. I mean, and particularly when you're first starting out, you've got to start that somewhere. Another thing to keep in mind is there's not a lot of traffic out there, and that's another little dirty little PPC secret for local businesses. If you're not a national business, take Key West, for example. On any given day, there's maybe 30, 40,000 people on the island. How many people are actually searching for a hair salon every day? And how many people are of those people? How many people are actually going to click on your ad? It's a pretty small number. I mean, you may only get a couple visits a day. But that's just all working towards building your brand awareness. So, is it all worth it? It depends on how you look at it. I mean, probably it is, right? But it's probably worth it for branding and not return on investment. It's probably more like a loss leader. And it's great when you're first starting out to get general website traffic. There are things that we can do in the next phase, like landing pages, and we'll talk about that in the near future, that could have a really positive impact on that math when we looked on the return on investment. Obviously, if you can change those numbers, if you can make the conversion rates higher, then you can come closer to making it make sense from a return on investment perspective. Okay. But it's really, really important when you're first starting out to just sort of, start that traffic funnel. And it's like a siphon. You're siphoning gas out of something, and you sort of suck on the hose and get the flow going. That's kind of what you need to do from an online marketing perspective at first. And pay-per-click can be a pretty important piece of that.